Well, to talk a little bit more about this, we're now joined by Sinegugu Zukulu, who's the program manager for sustaining the wild coast, who lives within the Pondoland marine protected area along the Eastern Cape's wild coast. He joins us now via Zoom. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. So an interim interdict was given a few weeks ago. Where are we now in terms of what you're trying or what the court action is about this time around?
The court action right now is the main case, which is the review, to review the decision that was taken by the department, by the minister, to grant Shell a permit or a permission to go ahead and do the exploration for oil and gas, the seismic exploration. So this is now the review case where the arguments about whether the decision taken by the minister was a legal one or not, which we argue as coastal communities. The argument is that the decision taken by the minister was illegal because, for the reasons which have been covered in your introduction, in terms of consultation, if the minister had the consultation been done, we would have been able to air our own views and the opinions about the proposed seismic exploration. But for whatever reason, they both the minister or the department and Shell, the company, they didn't see it necessary to talk to the coastal communities who are going to be directly impacted by this, the operation, or by the seismic exploration. That's one of the grounds that we are challenging this decision, and we want it reviewed and set aside.
Are you hoping that this might be a test case to help future actions against this kind of activity by oil and gas giants coming to South Africa and trying to expand their operations?
No, not just that. I think it is important, first and foremost, to acknowledge that in an area where you go and operate, whether you want to go and mine or explore for oil and gas, there are people who use that land or that ocean. And the rights of those people need to be respected. Those people, they do need to have a say, a prior informed consent, a free prior informed consent about what happens on an environment or on the land on which they live. So it's important for that to be debated in court. Remember also that in this country is a constitutional democracy. So we have a constitution that guarantees us human rights, and those human rights do not belong to the government, they belong to the people of this country. One of those rights, for instance, in Chapter 2, Section 24, is the right to a safe and healthy environment. So therefore, an economic activity or mining or exploration that's going to be done, the law of this country, the constitution and the legislation like NEMA and PRDA, they all require that the people must be given an opportunity to participate as interested and affected parties. If we therefore allow those rights which are enshrined in our constitution to be taken away from us by not challenging decisions that are disregarding those rights, we are setting a very bad precedent. So going to court is about claiming those rights. It's about using our constitution and the laws to argue our way to claim the rights that belong to us as the people of this country.
Now, Shell claim that they did everything that was required and necessary to go ahead. You're challenging that, and you're saying that they didn't do nearly enough. Does that mean that they did enough to tick the boxes, in which case our laws perhaps let us down?
You see, the problem is exactly that, about the box ticking. You see, the law requires that you must make it known by the people when you are planning to undertake an activity, be it an economic activity that is going to impact in their lives. The law requires that the people must be able to participate. This is a huge undertaking. For instance, if you are talking about oil and gas, we know that all over the world, in areas and in places where oil is being extracted from the ground, there are oil spills which affect the way of life of those people. We know, for instance, about Pondoland, we know about Mauritius, everywhere where oil is being extracted, it impacts negatively on the lives of those people. Coastal communities are dependent for livelihood on the ocean. And it's not only those coastal communities. The ocean is also a commonage for all of us, not only for the people of this country, but also for the people who come and visit South Africa as tourists. We know that our shoreline is hosting so much of our tourism, economic activity, employment, job creation. So all of these things, we know one of the major things is that we have the challenge that we're facing as global community of climate change. Not just us, not just South Africa, but we have just seen already the recent floods which happened in April. And we heard what the politicians were saying, that it is the impact of climate change, and we agree with them, it is. We also know that South Africa is #1 polluter within this continent. The recent survey done, for instance, about the air quality within the continent, about 15 most polluted cities, in other words, carbon emitting cities in the continent, top 15, 11 of those are in South Africa. We are the biggest polluter in terms of climate change, the carbon emission. Therefore, and we know that South Africa, as well as Shell, are signatory to the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework on Climate Change. So where they have taken, look at Paris Agreement, they have taken decision to cut down on carbon emission. But now, hardly a month after the Glasgow conference, COP26, they are now turning around, they want to look for more oil and gas. So, we as the poor people, as the rural people, we are the most vulnerable when it comes to climate change. So therefore, there are many reasons that do not make sense why Shell should be allowed to come. It's also very sad, one of the very serious reasons why we need to question this, we need to challenge this, is the fact that here we have politicians voted by the people of this country. Instead of standing and listening and hearing the voice of the people, they decide to side with Shell, a multinational corporation, to exploit
let me ask
natural resources of fossil fuels in this country to enrich
let me ask
the
you this.
shareholders of Shell at the expense of the lives of the poor, the people in rural areas.
All right.
How does that differ from colonialism.
All right, let me ask you this. Shell's been around for decades and decades. Is it possible that they've learnt their lessons over time at different parts of the world, and that they could perhaps deliver this oil and gas safely, much safer than they've done in the past, and that maybe cutting-edge technology would be used in the survey and the extraction of the gas, and that maybe there could be jobs that you haven't thought about created by this new industry along this coastline?
Peter, we know that currently we have challenges in places where Shell is mining. I've just mentioned to you Pondoland in the Niger Delta. If there was such cutting-edge technology, so the people of Pondoland would not be complaining. So the challenges that we have are there, they exist. We're talking about the things that you can go Google, the oil spills in Pondoland. The challenge that we have is that profiteering is the main challenge that is driving Shell to do what they are doing. And disregarding the rights of the people to live on a healthy and safe environment. It looks like, again, to our government, that it is a secondary need to maintain a safe and healthy environment, which is a constitutional right to those people. So, and we know, for instance, like it has been argued in court today, that this kind of an activity is not going to create jobs and is going to make life impossible for the people. Who knows how many billions are the livelihoods that people derive from the ocean wealth? No one has even bothered to do that, but they tell us about the billions that Shell is going to invest, but no one has actually worked out what are the livelihoods that are sourced from the ocean wealth for those coastal resources. Once, if the ocean, therefore the oil and gas is found, and then the ocean is polluted by oil spills, as is always the case, then how are those people going to earn a living? So the challenge we have is that profiteering, or the making of profit, tends to trump the rights of the ordinary people.
All right.
And we need, if we have a constitution that guarantees us human rights, it is our responsibility as people in this country to make use of that constitution, to challenge and to protect the rights of the people to a sustainable development, as opposed to an extractive industry that will pollute the land and then leave.
All right.
And
Mr. Zukulu,
jobs are going to be created. Yeah.
We've run out of time, unfortunately, but I think your message has come across loud and clear. And let's just hope that the courts come to a fair decision when all is said and done. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.